Welcome to a fashion doll shoes tutorial.
In this second video I'm going to show you how to use the molds I've made in the previous video, and they are these smaller ones, and I have also a pair of larger molds here, and you need some sort of support for keeping the molds upright when doing the casting. And for these smaller ones I'm going to use this plastic cup. I'll just put the molds in there and they'll remain upright. And for the bigger ones I made these tabs in the back of the mold here, so I could attach them to these clamps, and these can be adjusted so I can adjust the position of the molds as required. The materials required for resin casting are of course the resin. This is 250 milliliter bottle, and there isn't much left, and I hope it will be enough for both sets of molds. And the hardener was originally in the same kind of a bottle, but the cap got totally stuck, so I had to cut open the bottle, so the hardener is in this airtight small container. You also need measuring cups, and these came with the resin and hardener, and I don't know if you can see it, but there are scales here inside of the cups. And the main thing with these is to remember to always use the same cup for the same liquid, and I have marked these. This is for hardener and this is for resin. Even though they have different color, it's safer to mark the cups, because if you first use the cup for resin and then later use it for measuring the hardener, you're going to get some hardened resin in the cup, and then the scale will not be accurate anymore after that. This resin I'm using is just one of several options, and you can use different brands, but I've found that it's easiest to have the kind of resin where you need 1 part hardener, 1 part resin, because the amounts required for this kind of casting are so small that if you need just very small amounts of hardener, it's very hard to measure accurately. So 1 part resin, 1 part hardener, and it's really easy to measure the right amounts. And then you need something to mix them together, and I'm using this small plastic cup and a wooden stick to mix, and they need to be disposable because you can't really use them for anything else afterwards. And this is the reason why you can't use them for anything else. This is a small plastic cup I have used for mixing resin, and as you can see, it's covered inside and out in residue. Okay, and then when you start casting, first you need to measure correct amounts of resin and hardener. And I really hope there is enough left for doing this. You don't need to make this all at once, you can do it in several parts. You can add resin to the molds in several batches and it won't show. It looks just the same as if you had put it all in there at once. And there's about 20 in both. Okay, and then I'll just pour this in first. This is resin, this is light yellow, and then the hardener, pour it in and mix it at the same time. And the mixture is it shows some stripes. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's sort of stripy, and you need to mix it so that it becomes not clear but equal in consistency. And you need to do it fairly quickly, because when the mixture starts feeling warm, it's time to do the casting, because the warmth means that the hardener is starting to work. So you can't delay too much. But still, when you have mixed the resin properly, you need to let it be for about a minute, so any air bubbles can get out. Although I don't really see any air bubbles in there, and it's starting to get warm. Yeah. So the next step is to pour in about half full first. Okay, and it's spilling. Well, that doesn't matter. Then squeeze the toe part a bit, just to remove any air bubbles that may be trapped there. They will come out when you squeeze it. And when you have done that, pour in the rest and try to get equal amounts in the molds. I'll need to put everything from this batch into these, but there's still some resin left, so hopefully I'll get enough for those small molds also. And try to get as much of the resin out of the mixing cup as possible, because there's no point wasting anything. Okay, now it's just drops. Yeah, well, that's about it. And then just put the molds in correct position, like so. And then you can mix another batch and continue. And the resin, it really starts hardening fast, because it's already changing from almost transparent to opaque. So it's already hardening, and you can feel that the mixture is getting warmer. And now I'm going to mix the rest of this resin. There isn't much left, and well, hopefully there's the same amount of hardener left. There should be, but it's not certain, so I'll just put a little bit in there first, and then this one. Okay, and there's still left a little more here. It's 15 and a little more from this bottle. So, and then just mixing those again. And I think I'm going to start with those small molds, because then I can pour the rest of it into those bigger ones. Yeah, it looks like. Okay, and then just let the air bubbles get out onto the surface if there are any. Okay, and then I'll pour some of it in there. Oops, that didn't take much, and there's a big air bubble in the top part that needs to be squeezed out. Okay, it should be fine. Then I'll put that one in there, and then some resin here. And I spilled quite a lot. There's air bubble also in there. Squeeze it out. Another air bubble. Squeeze them both out, and there's a bit of resin on the outside. Well, doesn't matter. Then we'll put it in there, and now they can harden, and then the rest of the resin goes into these bigger molds, and there's enough for both. Yeah, that's good. Actually, there's a little bit of extra left in there. Maybe I could get it into those small molds, because there's no point wasting anything. Okay, that's it. And there are very small amounts of resin and hardener left. I wonder if I can use those for something really small. I can at least try it later. I left the castings for about half an hour, and that should be enough. At least they are not warm anymore, and that means that they should be hardened. So I'll just remove those from the supports, and you can see there's a bit of resin on the outside, and you can see here where I spilled some of the resin. It doesn't matter really. And removing the castings from the molds is really the same as removing the molds from the doll's feet. You just turn the upper edge down, and then you roll the mold down and over the heel, and just roll it. It's a bit harder now because there's resin on the outside of the mold, but it can be done. And then turn the mold right way again. So now you can see the resin on the outside of the mold. And the second one, turn it down and then just roll it. Over the heel and all the way down, like so, and turning the mold. Right. And now what you can do next is just remove this edge is a bit higher than the other surface here, so you can take a craft knife and just carve off a bit of it. Like this. At this point the resin is still a bit soft, so it's easy to cut away anything that shouldn't be there. And later on, if you need to remove anything, it's really, you need to do it by sanding, but at this point it's easy to cut the edges like so, and then you just let them harden for a day or two, and they'll be as hard as they will get. And then, well, that went there, okay. Here are the smaller ones, and it's just the same process. Bit more difficult because these are so small, but you can do it. Just roll it down and you can get the mold off. And the other one. Rolling it down and around the heel. So, and then turning the molds. Now it's inside out, and I'm turning it. It's a bit harder to do this when there's resin on the outside of the mold, but you can do it. So, other one. Yeah, and now there are bits of hardened resin flying around. Okay. And then you can see there are some extra flaps here in the edge. So just move those. It's because I spilled the resin. So now those are removed, and then I'll just let these harden as well. And, well, they look fairly okay. For some reason there's a bump here. I don't know if there's a bump on the doll's leg, but you can cut it away. Makes the casting neater. It doesn't really affect the usability. It's just cosmetic issue. So those are basically ready for use right away because they are hard enough, but they will harden for a day or two still.